Witam w kolejnym odcinku polskiego ASMR. Dzisiaj kolejny mały eksperyment, a mianowicie przeczytam Wam parę ciekawostek z tym, że będę czytał je w języku angielskim, więc to coś nowego. Chciałem sprawdzić, jak to wyjdzie. Także na początek wezmę sobie jeszcze tylko gumę. Dobrze. Możemy przechodzić do pierwszej ciekawostki. North Korea and Cuba are the only places you can't buy Coca-Cola. No matter where you go, it's comforting to know you can always enjoy a Coca-Cola. Well, almost anywhere. While this fizzy drink is sold practically everywhere, it still hasn't officially made its way to North Korea or Cuba, according to the BBC. Dobrze. Drugi fakt. Myślę, że nie będę tego tłumaczył. Po prostu będę czytał to po angielsku, żeby skupić się na samym brzmieniu. Dobra, tak w taki wyjątek. Myślę, że większość zrozumiała, ale tu jest napisane, że w północnej Korei i Kubie nie można kupić Coca-Coli. Jest zakazana. Fakt drugi. The entire world's population could fit inside Los Angeles. The world's total population is more than 7.5 billion, and obviously that number sounds huge. However, it might feel a little more manageable once you learn that if every single one of those people stood shoulder to shoulder, they could all fit within the 500 square miles of Los Angeles, according to National Geographic. Fakt trzeci. There are more twins now than ever before. You might think twins are rarity, but they're actually becoming more common than ever. From about 1915, when the statistical record begins, until 1980, about 1 in every 50 babies born was a twin, a rate of 2%. 4. The hottest chili pepper in the world is so hot it could kill you. The weapon's grade dragon's breath chili pepper is so hot it's downright deadly. I've tried it on the tip of my tongue and it just burned and burned, said Mike Smith, the hobby grower who invented the dragon's breath along with a scientist from Nottingham University. So why make such an impractical pepper? As it turns out, the chili was initially developed to be used in medical treatment as an anesthetic that can numb the skin. Pinch. More people visit France than any other country. France is a beautiful country filled to the brim with delicious wines, scrumptious cheese, and tons of romance. So it's no surprise that more people want to visit France than any other country in the world, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. 6. The world's most densely populated island is the site of 2 soccer fields. 7. The Canary Islands are named after ducks, not birds. It might seem safe to assume that the Canary Islands were named after canary birds, but the location was actually named after ducks. 8. Indonesia is home to some of the shortest people in the world. Though there are short people and tall people everywhere, Indonesia is home to some of the shortest people in the world, according to data compiled from various global sources by the Telegraph in 2007. 9. The Paris Agreement on climate change was signed by the largest number of countries ever in one day. 10. The world's quietest room is located at Microsoft's headquarters in Washington State. Silence is golden, as they say, and while it may not be worth quite as much as jewels and gold, to most people it certainly was the primary goal for those who built the quietest room in the world. Located at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington, the lab room measures a background noise of -20 dBA, which is 20 decibels below the threshold of human hearing, and breaks previous records for spaces that were deemed the planet's quietest places, according to CNN. 11. There are only 3 countries in the world that don't use the metric system. For simplicity's sake, most of the more than 200 countries in the world use the metric system when describing things like length or mass. 12. The longest place name on the planet is 85 letters long. Nie przeczytam nazwy tej miejscowości, bo Mamon Kukumompuran. Dobra, nie będę się śmieszał. Nie wiem, kto wymyślił tę nazwę, ale dobrze. 13. 4 babies are born every second. Every second we welcome 4 new babies into our overall population. Do a little math and you'll find out that means there are approximately 250 births each minute, 15,000 each hour, and 360,000 each day. The coldest temperature ever recorded was -44 degrees Fahrenheit. You may think you're accustomed to frigid air and blustery winds, but the average winter day has nothing on the coldest day ever recorded, which was -144 degrees Fahrenheit. 15. The Earth's ozone layer will make a full recovery in 50 years. Because of pollution, the Earth's ozone layer has suffered a lot. That's a bad news for everyone, since the fragile gas layer protects our planet and shields us from the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays. 16, przepraszam. Językiem się Japan is the world's most earthquake-prone country. Earthquakes can range from minor tremors that are barely noticeable to building-toppling ground shakers that cause massive destruction. And 17. There are around 4 quadrillion bacteria on Earth. 18. People who are currently alive represent about 7% of the total number of people who have ever lived. 19. Muhammad is thought to be the most popular name in the world. Step aside John, James, Mary, and Jane. The most popular name in the world is believed to be Muhammad. According to Independent, an estimated 150 million men and boys around the world share this name. Only 2 countries use purple in their national flags. Looking for some more interesting facts? Well, here's one. The flag of Nicaragua features a rainbow in the center that includes a band of purple, while the flag of Dominica boasts a picture of a cirrus bird, a bird with purple feathers. 21. Africa and Asia are home to nearly 90% of the world's rural population. Not everyone lives in a booming city or sprawling suburb. Many people still make their homes outside of bustling locations, especially in India, which has the largest number of people living in rural areas. 22. The most expensive coin in the world was sold for more than $7 million. 23. The world's largest man-made oyster reef was created in Maryland. 24. A record-breaking 92 countries competed in the 2018 Winter Olympics. 25. South Sudan is the youngest country in the world. Some countries are hundreds of years old, while others can trace their nation's history back for thousands of years. But South Sudan in North Africa just gained its independence from Sudan in 2011, which currently makes it the youngest country in the world. More than 52% of the world's population is under 30 years old. 27. People 60 years and older make up to 12.3% of the global population. There are more than 24 time zones around the world. 29. Nearly half of the world's population watched both the 2010 and 2014 FIFA World Cup games. 30. It's estimated that Sweden has more islands than any other country. 31. There are 43 countries that still have a royal family. The British royal family may be the most famous royal family on the planet, but there are still plenty of other nobles out there. In total, there are 28 royal families who rule over a total of 43 countries around the world, including Japan, Spain, Switzerland, Bhutan, Thailand, Monaco, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Liechtenstein. 32. California is home to the artichoke capital of the world. 33. All giant pandas in zoos around the world are on loan from China. 34. The most typical human fits this description. According to a study developed for National Geographic in 2011, the world's most typical person is right-handed, makes less than $20,000 per year, has a mobile phone, and doesn't have a bank account. Canada has 9% of the world's forests. 36. The red-billed quail is the most common bird on Earth. 37. There is a website that tracks the world's population in real time. As of 2019, the overall human population is estimated to be more than 7.7 billion people. And if you want to watch that increase in real time, you can tune into the World Population Clock, which shows the upticks and downticks as babies are born and other people die. 38. More people speak Mandarin Chinese than any other language, with around 950 million native speakers and additional 200 million people speaking Mandarin Chinese, as a second language is the most popular language in the world. 39. Around 1 in every 200 men are direct descendants of Genghis Khan. 40. Copenhagen is the most bike-friendly city in the world. Many places around the world are trying to figure out how to rework their infrastructure to accommodate cyclists and hopefully in turn encourage residents to use the environmentally friendly mode of transportation. That's why Copenhagen has become such a role model according to Wired. It's the most bike-friendly city in the world. 41. There are 41 countries that recognize sign language as an official language. There are estimated to be 72 million deaf people around the world. There are also about 300 different sign languages. 42. The global adult literacy rate is around 86%. 43. Facebook has more users than the population of the US, China and Brazil combined. 44. There are only 2 countries with names that begin with D. 45. Only ants on Earth with about as much as all the humans. 46. The oceans contain almost 200,000 different kinds of viruses. The next time you feel like taking a dip in the big blue ocean, you might not want to think about the fact that the seemingly pristine water is home to almost 200,000 different kinds of viruses. 47. New Zealanders have more pets per household than any other country. People who live in New Zealand seem to love having an animal companion around. That's why 68% of the households in the country have a pet, which is more than any other nation in the world. 48. Tokyo is the world's largest city with 37 million inhabitants. Tokyo is a booming city not only by Japanese standards but also compared to the 2 cities around the world. With around 37 million people living in Tokyo, it's the world's largest city when it comes to population size, according to Reuters. 49. Przedostatni punkt. Interpol began in 1914 when legal professionals from 24 countries got together to discuss catching fugitives. 50. Nearly 2 people die each second. While 4 babies are born on Earth every second, it's estimated that around 2 people pass away at the same time. Dobrze. To by było na tyle. 50 faktów, ciekawostek o świecie. Mam nadzieję, że jesteś zrelaksowany i dowiedziałeś się paru ciekawych rzeczy, że zrozumiałaś, o czym mówiłem.